Okay, video number 2. I'm going to work on one example from each section just so that you can see it and remember how to do it. So in this first section, it's going to be creating the equation of a line when I'm given m and b. And remember that m is the slope and y-intercept is b. So notice that for this section, they're giving me 3 steps that I can follow to complete each problem. So step 1, write down y equals mx plus b. Step 2, substitute the slope in for m. And if my slope is -5, I can substitute in -5 and substitute the y-intercept in for b. And since the y-intercept is +2, I know I'm substituting in +2. Ta-da! Done. That's like the most straightforward thing in this entire section, so hopefully you have no problem with that, but you're going to follow those same 3 steps for the remaining 3 problems. Next, to write an equation of a line given a graph. Well, in order to write the equation of a line, I need 2 things. I want my slope and I want my y-intercept. So they give me 4 steps this time in order to accomplish that. Step 1, write down y equals mx plus b. Step 2, use any 2 good points on the graph to find the slope. So what do they mean by good points? Well, they mean let me try to find coordinates that I really am confident I know the coordinates for. So for example, I can clearly see that this is crossing at 0, 2. I can clearly see that this is crossing at 5, 6. I can clearly see I have an intersection at -5, -2. I just need to pick 2 of those. So I'll look at the first 2. In order to figure out my slope in a graph, granted, I could use the coordinates and use the slope formula, or I can just count my rise over my run. To go from -5, -2 and move it to 0, 2, I need to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and I need to run to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's giving me a slope of +4, that was 4 up, over +5, which was 5 to the right. Next, I want my b value. That's my y-intercept. I look to see where my line crossed the y-axis. The y-axis is the one that's going vertically, so that means my y-intercept is right there at +2. So I'm going to plug in +2, and I've created my equation. In order to assist you with number 9 and 10, some of you have heard of this before, some of you haven't, so I'm going to give you just this little reminder. Some of you know of Mr. Slope Guy, or you know him as Slopey, but Mr. Slope Guy tells me this. When I increase, thinner pen, when I increase from left to right, that's a positive slope. When I decrease from left to right, that's a negative slope. When I have a vertical line, that's an undefined slope. And when I have a horizontal line, that's going to be a 0 slope. So please remember Mr. Slope Guy as you go through 9 and 10. Pay close attention to the type of slope you're working with and help each other out. If you have troubles on that, YouTube the equation of a vertical line for number 10 and the equation of a horizontal line for number 9. Next, in order to write the equation of a line given a point and a slope. So this time, I know my slope, but I don't know my y-intercept. So we have 4 steps to solve these problems. Step 1, write down y equals mx plus b. Step 2, substitute the slope in for m. Well, in example 13, I'm told my slope is 2, so I'll plug 2 in for m. And then they tell me to put the point xy into the equation. Notice that step 2 and step 3 kind of go hand in hand. In the last section, I knew the slope and I knew the y-intercept, so I plugged in for both, but I don't have that here. What they did give me was a point, which gives me an x value and a y value. So I can plug those into the equation. Notice my y value is 3. I have an x value of 2. And now I can use this in order to solve for b. So when I simplify, I have 3 equals 4 plus b. I can subtract 4 from both sides, and I get that b equals -1. So now at this point, I have the 2 facts that I need. I have my slope is 2. I have my y-intercept is -1. So my equation is y equals 2 times x minus 1. Hopefully you're okay with that. The only thing I need to point out otherwise in this section is that there's a typo on number 15. It says m minus -2. That's just supposed to be m equals -2. So that's it. Just fix that before you work on the problem and get confused. All right, last section, writing an equation of a line when I don't have the slope or the y-intercept. They just give me 2 points. So step 1. Write down y equals mx plus b. To finish the equation of the line, I want the slope, I want the y-intercept. If I know 2 points and I want the slope, well, let me solve it by using the slope formula. Every set of coordinates gives me an x and a y. This one's also an x and a y. When I'm using the slope formula, remember, I want my rise over my run. I want the difference in my y's over the difference in my x's. So I can subtract 5 minus 3, and if I do that, I would have to do 4 minus 2. So that's the difference in my y's over the difference in my x's. I also could have done 3 minus 5 over 2 minus 4. The clue is, or the key is, really just to be consistent. 4 and 5 were the x values together in one point, so notice that both top and bottom started with 4 and 5 for the first set, or 2 and 3 are in the same point. So in another case, I could have started both top and bottom with 3 and 2. Just be consistent. So either way, I wind up with the slope of 2 over 2, which is a slope of 1. So now that I know my slope is 1, in my y equals mx plus b, I can plug 1 in. We still want the y-intercept though. We're definitely not done. So we have this, and now I can use the points that they gave me to find the y-intercept, sort of like we did right here. I knew a slope, I'm at the point of knowing a slope, and then I used the coordinates x and y in order to solve for b. The only difference on this problem is I'm given 2 points. So all that really means is pick one. I tend to go for the one that has the least negative numbers or the smallest numbers, just something that looks simpler to work with. So personally, I'm going to choose to use 2, 3. So that means I'm going to plug 2 in for the x value, and I'm going to plug 3 in for the y value. And now when I go to solve, I have 3 equals 2 plus b. I'll subtract the 2 from both sides and find that b equals +1. Now that I have my slope is 1 and I have my y-intercept is 1, I can create my equation. Y equals 1 times x plus 1. Now last thing is, while this is 100% true, the big boy and big girl way of writing this equation would be to leave that 1 out. So 1 times x is the same thing as just x. So please acknowledge that y equals x plus 1 is actually the correct simplified version of the equation, although I really couldn't take credit off for the first one. Again, if you have questions on that, talk to each other. But otherwise, you're good to go. From this point forward, basically between now and Monday morning, you're going to complete pages. We start page 3. You're going to complete pages, well, work started on 5, and you're going to finish on page 13 if you're on level, and you're going to finish on page 14 if you are honors. Good luck, guys. Thank you for your patience. We'll go over this on Monday. Email me if you have troubles. Goodbye.